going on, pretty people? We are back with another IG Live. Today I am joined by special guest, Mina Greenlee. I hope I'm saying her name right. But she is a phenomenal wellness athlete and a phenomenal and very talented wellness posing coach. And so she has graciously agreed to be on an IG Live with me, and we're going to be talking about the wellness mandatory poses, the front pose, side poses, and back poses. And she's going to be essentially breaking down helpful do's and helpful don'ts. So that way, if you're a wellness competitor, or maybe you are wanting to learn a little bit more about how to pose for the wellness division, Mina's going to essentially help break us down and get us started. And so we are going to go live right now. Hopefully she's able to join. Sometimes IG is a little weird when it comes to like promoting IG lives or whatever. And she is also new to the whole IG live world. And so hopefully we can get her in there. I am going to invite her in now, but if you guys can just be patient, I would really appreciate it. And I see that she's now live and also requesting to join. So hopefully this works. Fingers crossed. Also, no. Hey!
Oh,
Hello, how are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm
Little,
doing well. Did I pronounce your name correctly? It's pronounced Mina,
yes,
correct?
like China, but with an M.
That's what I heard, but I also wanted to make sure I didn't butcher it because it's like, it's one of those things where you never know until you know.
Well, it's like at nationals or really any show, they'll be like, and Mina. And so I
And
respond to really anything,
and you're
but
like so close.
it's like at nationals, I saw the bomb show owner who was moderating. I was like, I could tell her, but it's like, no, I won't.
I could. Eh.
I was like, I'm locked in. It's like, so,
That's
how are you?
right. That's right. No, I'm so excited for this live and I really appreciate this is your first IG live, right?
It is.
Dude, I'm telling you, I am like the cherry popper of IG lives. Like people will be like, "Oh, I've never done an IG live before," and I'm like, "It'll be great."
Harry Potter. I love that. It's my first time, but I'm very excited. I've been listening to you for a long time, so I feel like I know you already. So I'm excited to be here. And we're
Yeah, I'm
fun.
excited to have you. And so with that, I would actually love to get to know you first and a little bit of your background before we kind of dive into the wellness poses and then break down the mandatories.
Absolutely. So I feel like I have a similar journey to a lot of people. I was overweight in high school and I started doing weightlifting classes truly as a way to like get an academic credit without having to do any work. But then I fell in love with it. But I had no idea about nutrition. So I was just eating to my appetite and I was lifting super heavy weights. But I got like pretty large, close like 180. But like not 180 like fit.
Not
Um,
like clean, yeah.
I was not a clean 180 by any means, no. And then after high school, I was like very depressed. I needed an outlet. I used to show horses, and my horse had to be retired. So I just started going to the gym. My friend that I was a roommate with actually suggested it because I'd kind of gotten out of it. I started at Planet Fitness, just trying to lose weight, move my body.
Hmm.
And after a few years of that, one of the trainers who competed approached me and she was like, "Hey, have you ever thought about doing a bodybuilding competition?" I'm like, as a matter of fact, I have. I just was waiting for somebody to approach me and ask me because I had no idea how to go
Yeah.
about it. And I coached myself into my first show, really underestimated how much effort it took to pose, diet, all the things, but primarily posing. And my mom came to my show and recorded me. And I saw like a 3-second clip and like a little tear ran on my eye. And I'm like, I will never look like that again on stage because truly I did not practice posing. Like it's a front pose, it was
Yeah.
bikini. Front pose, back pose, how hard can it be? And right. I was so nervous. I had like a white V on my chest from where like sweat was just dumping and pulling off my spray tan. I got ninth place out of 10, not necessarily because of my physique, but because my posing and stage presence lacked so much.
Hmm.
And I just went on a mental mission. I still am self-taught. This is the first season I actually hired a posing coach for myself. I just went on a mission. I'm like, it's the last thing I'm going to do. I'm going to have good stage presence. I'm not going to get feedback about my posing ever again, which that was not the case. But it was much better, much improved, and not necessarily inherently taking away from my physique. It wasn't really adding much, like, as I was coming up,
Yeah.
but that's kind of how I got here today. There's a lot more. I guess I could talk forever about it, but
No, I think that's great. I think it's great to see your background, to know it was another like fat to fit story. But then like obviously when it comes to the competitor mindset, it's like constantly want to level up and be better. And some people choose to get really honed in on like the diet exercise portion. Some people really go all in when it comes to posing. And I think it's really admirable, regardless of what like speaks to you, like you really wanted to work on your posing because that probably is what embarrassed you the most. And it's like if you think about like even how I bodybuild, it's like yeah, my posing wasn't great, but like in terms of like my physique, okay, talk about shedding a tear. You're just like, oh, like obviously I wanted to really bring up my physique. That was like the biggest sore spot when it came to like how I presented on stage. And so obviously that like love and passion kind of really blossomed. And so when it comes to posing, like what do you love about posing and why do you want to teach it?
Posing for me is one of those things, and you know this already, and most people do. No matter how good your physique is, if you can't pose it, you're not going to place well. And in the same breath, even if you don't have the best physique on stage, if you have the posing, you have the stage presence, and you have the look, you may place better than somebody who has better genetics than you, more muscle than you, or more condition than you. So it's one of those variables that you do have control over because we don't have control of who shows up and it's same for diet and training, but we really don't have control over our genetics and who else is going to be there. So, and as far as teaching it, it's I want to be the person that I wish I had
Mm.
because posing did not come naturally for me at all. Like I was a baby giraffe. Even if you watch me today outside of being on the stage, my boyfriend, he's like, "You're the clumsiest person I know. I will fall, trip, stumble, bump my head into something." And so being able to help the other, and I call it baby giraffes of the world, it really means a lot to me because I was like, I had a friend who also competed. Posing, she's like had rhythm. Posing came naturally to her, and she was trying to teach me, and I was getting so overwhelmed. So in my teaching, it depends on the individual and who I can throw particular things at, but I can break it down to where it's super digestible, and we're just going little baby step by baby step and building up from there and watching people see themselves transform. They're like, wow, I didn't even know I could look like that. I didn't know I could perform like that because they're also the other clumsy person or someone who doesn't wear heels in real life because like, I can't walk in these and I dang sure can't do it on stage. And it's just extremely gratifying because no matter, again, how lean somebody comes in, how good their genetics are, if they can't present it, it doesn't do much for them, especially as they move up in the ranks.
Absolutely. And what I love about what you just said there, you were like, listen, I didn't grow up to be like a talented poser. Like like, correct me if I'm wrong, but do you have like any background in dance or ballet or anything like that?
Um, well, like, I don't know if me being like an actual like toddler doing ballet counts. I was also, even at that age, like 4 years old, I was watching what everybody else was doing because I just couldn't pick up the steps. And I tried out so the long story short, no, but I tried out for cheerleading in high school and middle school multiple times, did not make the cut because
And
of lack of
I
coordination.
like that, right? Because a lot of the times when it comes to presenting your physique on stage, a lot of the great posing coaches, and this is not a bash, it's just what happens is when they enter into their bodybuilding arc, they seamlessly, flawlessly transition ballet, dance, cheerleading, whatever rhythm into posing in the footwork and then allowing from head to toe that flow. Me and you, okay, I never did ballet or cheerleading. I grew up with fucking softball and volleyball, which is very like talking about light on your feet. We're like stop, stop,
Yeah.
stop, stop, stop. So like, I am not a graceful fucking swan. I'm like a fucking ostrich. So my weakness in my posing is very much lack of flow. So working with a posing coach, it is so important that I'm like, explain it to me like I'm five. Like I do not have rhythm, my balance, I'm not very coordinated, but I will work hard. And so, really, when it comes to being able to pull the best out of your athlete, whether it is, bodybuilding coach or your posing coach, it's learning the right verbiage and the right cues, which is, I'm sure, what you are like really good at when it comes to working with either in person or online. And kind of going into like the front pose of wellness, can you kind of break down like what the judges are looking for when a wellness athlete hits her front pose?
So grand overview, they're looking for a small waist, being able to see the glute from the front, and noticeable size in the legs that's a little bit disproportionate from the upper body. And we can play to those strengths and weaknesses depending on who the individual is and how we pose them. can
Gotcha.
get going too.
Right, absolutely. What do you think in terms of like you get a either an experienced or maybe a total beginner? What are some common mistakes that you see in the front pose?
The biggest That's when I see people posing too hard.
Mm,
And I know that's kind of generalized, but it's really, and I may be oversimplifying here, but we're really just sitting back in the hip, rotating the shoulders to the judges. A lot of times I'll see people like flaring their lats or trying to like flex their chest or flex their quads, and we don't have to do any of that. In the
mhm,
criteria, they don't want to see separation in the quads. They don't want to see like we're not flaring lats. We're just chilling. We're sitting back in the hip. Um, and then just little things like opening up the leg to try and make the legs look bigger. As much as we may want to do that, and how I like the front pose like that. And that's how things were, in 2020, 2021, when the division was just starting. They're really going to this letting the knee fall across the body, bring the glutes more towards the judges
mhm.
rather than trying to open up the lower body. It's a game of glutes more so than it is legs. And that's how we've kind of seen the division progress and how the posing has progressed to match that.
Yeah, I think that's really important that you spoke on that because I know there are a lot of athletes that really want to highlight the quads because like wellness is leg dominant compared to bikini, and like that's the thing is you got to be careful. It's the comparison. If you compare it to bikini, yeah, like you are going to have visibly bigger quads, glutes, legs, like the entire package. But within the criteria of wellness, aside from bikini, like it is a disproportionate lower body, but the glute is still like the emphasis. And so as the posing has evolved and as judging criteria has shifted based on what they're rewarding, you're right. It is, yes, obviously the quads are fucking ginormous, but you still want the right rotation to see that upper glute, especially in that front position.
Absolutely. Another common mistake, people actually flex that glute because, like, if you flex, think about when you're in your S pose, if you flex your glute, how you kind of get a little bit more shelf.
Hmm.
But when you do that and you're stage lean, you kind of get this, like, the lower glute shifts up too.
Yep.
So it kind of creates like an uncomfortable imbalance. Whereas if we just, again, over posing, if we just relax that glute, we'll get more shape, more density, fullness, roundness from top to
Hmm.
bottom rather than just the upper portion.
Absolutely. So then kind of literally transitioning to the side pose, what are we trying to see when it comes to the wellness side pose? And if you know, and this is just me asking a general question, what is the difference between a wellness side pose and then like the bikini pose?
They are very, very similar.
Hmm.
And oftentimes, like, I know this doesn't necessarily pertain to wellness, we'll see bikini competitors almost hitting their front pose more like a wellness side pose. So the biggest difference is we're going to be primarily turned like a full 90 degrees.
Mm.
Whereas in bikini, we're still angling our front foot. And this is, again, more so like if you think back to 2019, before wellness was here, we were hitting our side pose with our foot at 90 degrees.
Mm.
But as they've added wellness, that dynamic has kind of shifted. So turning into our first quarter turn, where I always like to use the clock as a reference. Our
Yes.
entire body is rotated towards 3 o'clock if the judge is 12. We are just bringing our shoulders to be more squared off. It's not all the way to the front like in a bikini pose, but we still want to see that back shoulder. We still want to see the back
Mhm.
arm. And that's another big mistake that a lot of people will make. They'll just fully turn to the side. They'll still bring their arm up, but their chest is still pointing towards 3 o'clock when we more so want to see it towards 12 or 1, just depending on the thoracic rotation, the individual. And that's where we kind of get into the little details of
Mhm.
individualized posing. But what we want to see, again, we're highlighting the glutes, not so much the legs. A lot of people will want to squat. Well, of
Mm.
course, looking at legs, we're looking at the separation between the quads and the glutes. But a lot of people will squat and sink into that pose to try and create more depth of the lower body when really it's taking away, it's blurring some of those lines. We're not getting as much separate, or like, I guess separation would be the right word, of the glute to the hamstring. It just kind of smooths together. Where in some people, we do want a softer knee, which allows you to have more hip ability to tilt the hips and push the glutes up and back. Generally speaking, we want to stand up very straight because once we start squatting, we also allow the chest to fall
Yeah.
forward. To get some wideness in the waist, typically more towards the bottom from the belly button down. But it really kind of imbalances the entire pose when we start to do that.
I agree. I think that's great feedback. And even as a bikini athlete, because the side pose in wellness and then the front pose for bikini, since there are a lot of similarities, I did notice that when I really focused on sitting into the hip and pushing it more toward the judges, that caused my spine to want to also kind of like make myself appear smaller versus yes, making sure that my glute is emphasized, but thinking about having a nice tall spine, a nice elevated chest with that rotation. One, it makes the rotation a little bit easier in my opinion, but two, it's not as like I feel like you're being compressed versus you want to be elongated. And that just even that little cue helped my front pose look a hell of a lot better. And I was like, oh, interesting.
I'll use the cue like lengthening your lower back a lot because
Yep.
sometimes lifting the chest doesn't help people, but I'm like you said, elongating the spine. That will also help. Another one I use is nip over knee because we don't want to see the chest forward. If you draw a straight
Mm,
line from your knee to, I know, like it sounds silly, but your nipple, if we're not, it'll give us signs of if we're too far forward, if we're not rotating enough. So if we're mentally always like nip over knee, we're going to stand tall. We're going to rotate the upper body, which I mean, that's one of my favorite things to use. I'm like, you guys are gonna hear that in your head when you're on stage. You're just gonna hear my voice say, "Nip over knee, nip over knee." But
You're
it's
just screaming
sometimes
it with a megaphone, nip over knee.
literally, literally, way literally.
Whenever you make t-shirts for your posing, nip over knee. That needs to be a t-shirt brand.
I'm here for it. I like
I'd
it.
buy
Who is that?
it.
Mina.
Just it's just some mina nuggies. I love it. All right, then like again, another quarter turn. We're now hitting the back pose. What are like some key things that you would like to really drill your clients on when it comes to hitting that back pose properly?
Here, so the transition is always important when thinking of setting up a pose. I think the transition helps us set up a pose better, but I think it's especially important in the back pose because if we don't transition properly, we're going to have to make adjustments. We want the feet to be even. If one foot is in front of the other, it's going to create a glute imbalance or the
Mhm.
look of such. So nailing that transition so that our feet are aligned properly. The two biggest things I see is either people turning out their toes too far, like fully like Daffy Duck, or I guess three here, standing too wide, squatting too much in the back pose, or letting the chest fall forward in an attempt to push the glutes back towards the judges. Which again, all that kind of falls under the category of posing too hard. And I
Yeah.
know it's a little counterintuitive, like yes, posing is hard, but there is such thing as doing too
Mm.
much. General cues are going to be, again, kind of my basis for all the poses. Build from the bottom up. So we're externally rotating with the knees. We're softening them a little bit. We're not fully squatting. We're just softening the knees enough to allow for that anterior pelvic tilt mobility. We're really pushing the hip bones down towards the ground, and just keeping the chest as high as possible. Even if you're just standing there, if your chest is up, and you're externally rotating your knees, you're going to hit that back pose better than you would if you are pushing the glutes back too hard. So yes, there's a lot to it, but at the same time there's not. It's just hitting those few key marks and holding it. And having the endurance to hold it because a lot of it is the arch in the lower back to really lift the glutes, which that is what's going to pull out the tie-ins, not so much pushing the glutes back towards the judges,
Mhm.
and just having again the endurance to hold it.
I love that. And I think you actually touched on something that's not normally spoken up about enough, in my opinion, is foot placement via transitions. And so, what are some things that you like to help your girls out when it comes to doing the quarter turn from the side post to the back post to make sure their foot placement is set up properly?
So a big one that there's a few here again. I will have people transition back to like an S pose, a bikini S pose, or a front pose with their arms down to give them the ability to pivot into the glute. So they're three-quarters of the way facing the back wall. And from there, they just have to step horizontally. And I say, make sure your toes are pointed towards the back wall when you take that first step. Then you're bringing your left foot in line. And so we're not at our full width here, but we're just getting the feet together. And oftentimes with our wellness girls, there's not usually a thigh gap. If there is, we'll deal with it. But I'm like, I'm like, let your adductors touch, and then we're gonna shift left to right to step out our stance. But that's how we can keep our feet aligned in the same spot. I will also have them get some painter's tape or like I use duct tape because I can't find painter's tape, and create a shoulder width by shoulder width apart box because this will give you an idea of how large of a step you need to take. And that's
Mm,
a common mistake in transitions. Someone will take a massive step and it stretches out the physique. Whereas if we keep everything compact, we can keep everything elevated. We can keep the glutes pushed back. And it's always easier to step wider and be able to make it look pretty than it is to be like, oh shit, I'm too wide and have to like scoot everything
yep.
back in. Inevitably you're going to have to drop the hips where you can just kind of like shimmy back and forth to pull it
Mm.
open. Hopefully that answered your
No,
question.
I absolutely did, because even that's something that bikini athletes also need to know, because it is something where that back placement, and this is something where, especially if you do have a glute imbalance, like you really have to hone in on when it comes to making sure the transition from your front pose to your back pose, that foot placement is ideal, and the stance of the width is also in a place where, again, we're thinking of where the shoulders line up with the glutes versus wellness. Obviously, you ladies are maybe going to take a little bit of a wider stance just because you have more leg mass. Something that also I wanted to talk to you about, because I wanted to hear your, hey Megs, I wanted to hear your thoughts on it. What are your thoughts of the excessive like squish of the quads, like just woo, on your back pose, where they're like peeling their quads back to where it almost looks like fucking tubes?
Um, as someone who has gotten feedback that my quads are imbalancing my glutes, and 9 times out of 10, it's going to look imbalanced.
Mhm.
And like, even in the most like simple thought process, if you do that enough times, you're going to rip your spray tan off with your palms. And so when you come back to the front, you're going to have hand marks. But it just never reads well. Even if you don't have the biggest legs, it's the goal again is not quads here. Wellness has become extremely glute dominant, and I always say like at places it's like back pose is number one, front pose is two, and then your side poses are kind of give or
Mhm.
take. But whoever has the best back pose is going to win the class, and someone with imbalanced quads, it's not going to happen. So I think there's a little bit of wiggle room of who's turning their toes wide and who's keeping them straight forward. But at the end of the day, it doesn't look good on anybody. Even if you are needing to bring your quads up, just don't do it.
Yeah. Girl, I was not calling you out whatsoever. I just know that there are some girls that when they do it, it's like they feel like they're fucking Moses trying to part the Red Seas, and I'm like, just build bigger quads. Like, but then like focus on the glutes. You know what I'm saying?
Truly, I had someone like one of the wellness pages. He was like, "Don't push out your quads in your back pose." I'm like, dude, like that's just my legs, bro. Like I'm not. I promise I'm not doing that. But yeah, we're not parting the Red Sea any. We're not peeling
Yeah.
off spray tan.
Don't be Moses. Don't be parting those Red Seas. I love it. So hit the front pose, hit the side poses. Anything else that you want to touch on when it comes to wellness posing that you want to emphasize or you want to see die?
I can start with what I want to see die.
Let's do it.
The hands, like less is more, baby.
Mm,
I don't care if you're, and respectfully, I don't care if you're a pro at the highest level or if you're an amateur. We don't need our hands coming up here. Judges don't need to see your armpits. Truly, yes, it's taking away from the physique. I mean, I understand, like, a little, some people do this to pull the hair off the shoulders. That is one thing.
yeah.
But flying away like a swan in every single transition, we're not there. I also want to see touching the quads when we hit. I mean, a girl, my list will go long. Hitting the front toes when people like caress up the thighs and then they hit it. I'm like,
Mm,
how about we just don't do that? Like, you should know how to hit your front toes well enough where you don't have to touch your legs.
mm.
I mean, in thought. But if one person does it at the highest level, then it trickles
Then
down.
everyone.
And
Yep.
then everyone's doing it and it becomes a trend and I'm like, okay. And some of it's just style preference, but I I think the hands can die for the judges too. I did have Marion Newman. She is an Olympia judge now. She looked at me specifically in 2020, and she was like, "Pros earn that extra time on stage,
Mm,
so just hit your poses and get off. We don't need to see hair flips. Like, I mean, Every now and then I'll program a hair flip for somebody because they really want it, and I'm kind of like, But I've even had to strip down my own routine. I'm like, I know how to do a lot. I could go do a pro routine right now because I love to pose and I practice it a lot. But at the amateur level, get on stage, hit your poses, get off stage. You don't have a minute and a half, you have 15 to 30
Mm.
seconds. So less is more. Um, and then things I really want to hone in on your stage presence and like being able to smile through the nerves
Yep.
and practicing your facial expressions. I may be alone in this, but what I can't stand is when someone just smiles through the entire thing. I'm like, girl, you look nervous. This is not a beauty pageant. It kind of is. Like, if you practice your posing and you program your facial expressions to switch from like smiling with the teeth and without the teeth, that is going to read as so confident, even if you feel like you're going to, like, your heart's going to explode and you're going to have a panic attack.
I
It's just,
love that you mentioned that because that's something that I have made a point to practice. And like, this is going to sound dumb, but this is serious on the same level when it comes to competing. But I literally have watched documentaries on the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders and Simone Biles when it comes to their showmanship when they're competing, where they hit their routines. Like the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, they're hitting their routine. They're making cheerleading look easy, even though it is not fucking easy. But their faces are never the same. They hit their smiles, wide teeth, no teeth, little smirk, like they have so much on their face that you can't help but not look away because of that confidence. And that's something that even in my posing now, I'm trying to make sure it's smile, soft smile, sass. Like you can present so much of your personality with just your face. But if you just smile, it's like you look like you're trying to hold in a fart. You know what I'm saying? And it's like that's not a good look on stage.
no. Not at all. I love that because I'm like the big thing that I try to stress people like no matter how nervous you are, if you let those facial expressions become muscle memory in your individual routine, you're going to do them anyways. And people, like you said, they're not going to be able to look away.
Yep.
And you're going to look like you're owning the stage, even if you feel like you're going to like have a heart attack as soon as you walk off. It creates that presence of that. I can't stop looking at her. And that it factor will take you, again, circling back to the beginning, whether you have the best physique or not, if you have that it factor, you have confidence, your posing is on point, that can level you up against someone who might have a slightly better physique than you.
Exactly. And then one last thing that I think would be good to touch on is the idea if you make a whoopsie, if you make a mistake, if you like have a brain fart and you forget your poses, don't let it show. Because at the end of the day, only you, your posing coach, and the good Lord knows the routine that you practice behind closed doors. The judges don't. Like your friends and family, they probably don't know enough to remember. But if you make a mistake, don't show it, just own it and try to pivot, right? If you make a mistake in your stance, like Mina was saying earlier, shimmy into it, like move the hips to where it has flow and rhythm, because even if it's off, like you're the only person that's going to know. And then in which case, maybe it's more practice or maybe it's just nerves and you'll do better next time. But like if you do make a mistake, own it, move through it, and take the Bob Ross approach. It's like it's not a mistake; it's just a happy little tree. You know, make something, make a happy little tree out of your disaster.
That is an excellent point, and I have like a couple examples that I share with my clients on this particular note. I was at the Savannah Pro in like 2021, and it wasn't routine specific, but they were working everybody in their poses, and the girl in the center stage was hitting her front pose, and she got a cramp, and homegirl literally did like the wave with her arms and reset her front pose with a big smile on her face. Still won the whole show because she didn't let it get at her. She just went with it and like exactly like the judges are human too, and they're going to appreciate your resilience and like ability to work through an issue. And like also 9 times out of 10, the judges aren't going to see it. They're looking up and looking down. They're looking up and looking down. They're not noticing if you like have a little stutter step.
Yep.
Um, they're really just looking at your body and your physique and how you're presenting it. They're not like, she tripped -1 point. I mean, maybe at the highest level at the Olympia, that could potentially take away from you. But for most people at an amateur show or a regional show, a national show, or even most pro shows, it's not going to
Mhm.
matter.
Absolutely. No, I agree. Any final things that you want to touch on that maybe you would like to see, like maybe ending on a little bit of a positive note, or things that you would like to continue to see?
That I was a little bit quicker to answer things I would rather
But
see die, huh?
that's good though, because it's constructive criticism. And that's, I think, something that's important to know. But even if there is something, even if it's small, where it's like, oh, I do like that they made this change in the judging criteria, or I like that we are seeing a shift toward this.
Um, I do like that. I feel like they're finally starting to figure out the criteria that they want
Mm,
to see. Because for so long it was so across the board. And it's still, there's still a little discrepancy here and there, but they're really starting to hone in on the conditioning they want, the size they want, and placings are reflecting that. Like, even my placing didn't go as I wanted it to because I was a little bit outside of that box. Wellness is supposed to be an in between division. It's not supposed to be bodybuilder lower body with like a figure upper body. It is for the person who's moving up out of bikini or someone who has a little bit too much more, like a little more lower body dominance for bikini, and even figure, but not the upper body to go to women's physique. So I've really enjoyed that. And again with the posing, it's become more uniform and unanimous. Back in 2020, 2021, people were hitting their front pose a million different types of ways. And people were placing because they had to. They had to judge that panel. So it's become easier to, one, teach the posing in the realm of what the judges want to see, just because we have more feedback to go off of.
mhm.
Um, and I really like how wellness has like I always compare bikini to like a little bit more like your like prom queen type of persona, whereas like wellness is a little bit more sexy, and we're not winking at judges or anything, but we're allowed to be a little bit more sexy. I personally feel in that
Mhm.
division, and it makes me feel sexy. So um, there's a lot of good things that are happening. Something I would like to see more of, though, is people just reaching out and asking for
Mm,
help. If I don't like, and that's why I try to be the like, just send me your pictures. I will give you some feedback. Like, I'm not going to charge you. I just want to help you because the sport is expensive. And when I was first starting out, there was no, like, I had zero resources. I didn't know opposing coach was a thing. So just, I wish people would be more honest, one, to ask for help, and there was more people out there willing to give help without expecting something in return. Because at the end, like, yes, this is what I do for a living, but like, it's not going to hurt me to take 4 minutes, 3 minutes out of my day to give somebody a little bit of feedback to help them feel more confident.
I
Uh,
love that. You can always see who's passionate about wanting better for the sport based on what they're willing to give for free. And like for coaches, free Q&As, free guides, free educational materials. For posing, free guides, free educational materials, like not physique checks, but like, posing adjustments, just like little free things to help make a person better to elevate the sport. And like I said, there's genuine passion that you can't fake when it comes to just wanting better for the individual. And speaking of, do you want to tell the people what you created to help them out?
Girl, when I started to, okay, so I'm gonna tell the people first. I typed out a like fundamentals of wellness, how to build each pose, do's and don'ts for each pose. I'm sure there's like more I could add to it. When I first started typing it, I thought it was gonna be one page. We got 5 pages
It's
of
insane. I was like, oh, like even as a bikini athlete, the keep, what did you say? Keep a tall, low back or something? Is that
links
your
to the
cue?
lower back.
That's the cue that I use for my front pose and back pose, and they've got better. So like even as a bikini athlete, I was like, shit.
There's a lot. I had a lot to say apparently, but whoever is interested, if you send me a DM or if like maybe you send Ash a DM, she can direct you my way. I'm more than happy to send that to you. It is very detailed from your feet to your hands to your facial expressions. There's tips on the model walk, which we didn't necessarily touch on today, but that is a super important aspect that a lot of people I think overlook. So feel free to reach out to myself, and I will very gladly send you my 5 page instructional guide. And if you have any questions on it, of course, send me some pictures, send me a video of you posing, and I'm more than happy to give you some feedback.
Yes, this holds true if you watched us live or if you're watching the replay, or also if you're watching us on YouTube, because I do upload these to YouTube. So I will make sure that Mina's Instagram is in either the description or tagged or whatever, so that way you can get some free help. Because even if you're a bikini athlete, like some of the things won't apply to you with like the quarter turns, but still the cues are very similar when it comes to glute presentation, showmanship of your face. Less is more with the hands and the hair flip. So it's like, if don't be afraid to ask for help, and don't be afraid to just like put yourself out there, because I understand it can be scary and vulnerable to especially like put your physique to someone that you don't really know and be like, hey, help me, because again, you're in your freaking underwear essentially. But at the end of the day, if you do want to be a competitive athlete, it should be no surprise you're going to be essentially in blinged out undies on stage. So it's like you want to make sure you're presenting your best, because like we have all had the nightmare where you're like in your underwear and math class when you're in like the third grade and everyone's laughing at you. Yeah, bodybuilding is kind of like the same. Like you're in your underwear, everyone's looking at you. Maybe they're laughing, maybe they're cheering, maybe they're screaming, nips over hips. I don't know. Like your dream is your dream, but like there are important things to remember when it comes to posing to bring your best.
And then kind of circling into bikini, I think it's important. I just want to let the people know. I actually have just as much experience competing in bikini as I do wellness. I know this is
Ooh.
fundamentals of wellness today, but I competed in for 2 years. I did 4 shows in bikini. Yes, the posing has changed, but I've also followed the sport enough to understand like I can help you guys too. So if whether you're bikini or wellness, feel free to reach out because I'm more than happy to help and give you some pointers on your posing.
I love that. Where can the people find you on socials or anything else that you want to plug?
I literally just have Instagram, Major Mina, kind of Major Mina, whatever you want to say, but it's a play on music. I love music, so just send me a DM, or I guess that's really the only way to contact me because I'm not really on Facebook or TikTok or YouTube, but I'm working on it. I would like to spread like my content sharing where yeah girl I'm still getting my feet wet. It's something I was having a conversation with one of my other bodybuilding friends who's a little bit more present on social media and like finding the time to like do the life things plus like doing all the content creation is just a balance I'm trying to get hold of. So Instagram is my primary form of contact. If you are interested in posing, there is an application through my link tree, and I'll shoot you a text, reach out to you, and set something up. I do free consults, so I'm more than willing to talk to anybody about your goals. And it's never too late or too soon to start your posing. I had a girl reach out. She was like, I was going to sign up with you like 4 weeks out from a show, but I didn't think that was enough time to help. I'm like, girl, if you're invested, I'm invested. Like, it may be a 30-minute session, but we're going to stay on until you get it right. And I'm going to tell you to send me videos every single day until you get it right. So, um, I just want to help as many people as I can because I know what it's like to not feel confident on stage just because of your posing and not having the resources to help you.
Exactly. Absolutely. Guys, reach out to Major Mina. Do it. Reach out. If you have questions, bikini, wellness, anything else that she has to offer, like she takes advantage of her free guide. Like I'm sure she'd be willing to make one for bikini. Maybe she'd be even willing to make one for a mobility routine for all competitors. Like when you have a heart to want to help people and a passion to make the sport better, like we're willing to make free educational resources, because yeah, this is a luxury service. It is a very expensive sport, but it doesn't mean it needs to be like so out of reach, especially if you just want to see if you like it. So reach out, have some courage, take a leap of faith. If you have any questions, either DM her or DM me, and I can either help you and direct you to her, or even if you're interested in just general, coaching services when it comes to competition prep. But thank you so much for your time and for your first IG live. You did great. Round of applause for Mina.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad I got to like meet you and chat with you in person. Because, like I said, I'm a little bit of a fangirl over here. So,
Dude, I poop my pants one leg at a time, no different than you. Like I am just Ash Markham.
well, I listen to you literally every single week. So, again, it's like when you messaged me, I was like, yes, I will be there. Sick or
Perfect. Well, I
not.
appreciate your time, girl, and I
Absolutely.
appreciate the learning nuggies. So it's something I'm able to help not only myself, obviously, but also like my wellness girlies as well. But guys, thank you so much for your time. Mina, thank you so much for your time. We will catch you next Monday. I will be with Maria from Goddess Glam talking about all things posing suits for designing your figure wellness and bikini suits. So you definitely don't want to miss that. But y'all have a great rest of your day and we'll catch you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.